frankly, there's nothing we can do because we're lazy and stupid, mostly. And I know this because I'm on my third GS, a bike that will go anywhere and do anything, 90% of which I won't ask or go and do. Hi. Since I created this channel, I've been very lucky to test ride quite a few motorbikes and look at kit and apparel and really dig into sort of some topics that in my journey of motorbikes that things maybe aren't things I would buy or brands I'd necessarily look at. So it's been quite an interesting time. But specifically, while I've been digging into these brands, I've noticed something where I think the motorcycle industry has changed significantly away from what it was. Now, for me, what it was through the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and maybe into the early 2000s, the motorcycle was a commodity at the point of use. So for me, that means that motorcycle manufacturers in the main were creating models that satisfied specific user cases, more or less, which then us as the buying public would use that bike to do that thing. But what I see is happening now is motorcycle manufacturers are taking the commodity concept away from the point of use to the point of sale. Specifically, the amount of models that are being produced with any given manufacturer, which are trying to create a user case in order for us to buy it, but more about the commodity of them making money rather than the usability that we would perhaps realize as a consumer. And thinking about this, it's made me think about the word commodity and what it actually means. So, at a high level then, a commodity, also called a primary product or a primary good, is a good sold for production or consumption just as it is found in nature. Right, so it's not that. Motorbikes aren't found in nature, although I wish they did grow on trees. So then it took me, I'm no Marxist, but it took me into Karl Marx and what he perceived a commodity to be. And a commodity is an external object, a thing which through its qualities satisfies human needs of whatever kind. So that is verging on its use is how it satisfies our need at the point of use rather than the point of sale. Now, when I dig further into this, more Marxism, again, not a Marxist, the two factors of the commodity, use value, which we've discussed, and value or substance value or the magnitude of value. So that for me, at least my interpretation, is saying if I can eke out a market by producing more models to create a artificial need which doesn't exist, which will hopefully be satisfied, then I can commoditize my product to a greater extent. Now, what does this look like in terms of our today's motorcycle world? I went on to Auto Trader, and there's currently in the drop down 218 brands. Now, some of them are defunct brands and they're old bikes, which is fine, but 218 brands of motorcycle would seem excessive, I would say. So I zoomed in a little bit and I picked the top 7 brands. So Suzuki, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda, Ducati, Triumph and BMW. Sorry, I'm looking at a whiteboard. So top 7 brands, right. How many models or derivations of a model did they make? So Suzuki's got 32, Yamaha 40, Kawasaki 36, Honda 58, Ducati 47, Triumph 39 and BMW 34. That is 286 models or derivations of a model from 7 manufacturers. Now that does seem a lot. So I zoomed in a little bit further and picked out some specific models which were noteworthy. There are 5 versions of the GSS-X 1000 and 10 versions of the V-Strom, 6 versions of a Yamaha Tenere and 12 versions of the Ducati Multistrada. Now I don't think the world really needs 12 versions of a Multistrada or 10 versions of a V-Strom, but that's what we have. Now whilst at the point of purchase that seems like we're having more choice, what I think it's doing is diluting what motorbikes potentially mean to us, or perhaps should mean to us, or even my rose-tinted glasses, what it means to me. Because when we look back today on motorbikes of old and the icons we have of the motorbike world, so much so that today Kawasaki has a 40 anniversary series. of motorbikes? Are we going to have a 40th anniversary in 2064 of the bikes we make today? I doubt it. Because what I don't see is the flagship models that everybody's heard of or everybody lusted after, or the stories that remain relevant, or the foundations, let's say, that the motorbike industry is now sat on were built previously. Now that could be everything from the VFR, the Ducati 916 and 996, the original Katana, the BMW GS, the story between the ZZR 1100, the Thunder Race, and the Blackbird, who's going to be the fastest bike in the 90s, the Goldwing, a bike which everyone's heard of, or the original Harley Davidson Flat Tracker. These models are synonymous with the history of motorbikes that we all look back on, which the manufacturers are doing their darndest to make sure that that level of motorcycle legacy simply won't exist in the future. Not that I see it. What has been remarkable in the last 10-15 years? Maybe the Ducati Diavel. That's a remarkable looking motorbike, and like nothing else. Perhaps that. But I still remember when the first GSXR came out, the K1, and it looked like nothing else. Now, how do we do anything about this as a consumer? Frankly, there's nothing we can do, because we're lazy and stupid, mostly. And I know this because I'm on my third GS, a bike that will go anywhere and do anything, 90% of which I won't ask or go and do. So that then got me thinking about my motorcycle journey, and the rest of the video is about my motorcycle journey and the bikes I've had and what my relationship has been with those bikes over the time. And if you've got this far, if you could hit like or subscribe or comment your story, that'd be awesome. All of us can think back and remember when our relationship with motorbikes started, all the gear, all the people that we knew and looked up to or thought were cool because they had certain bikes, or television icons. But for me, my motorbike journey started in 1985, when for my birthday I got bought my first motorbike helmet. My brother is 6 years older than me, and his birthday's the day before mine, and we both got helmets by a British manufacturer called Top Tech that had gone out of business in 1984, got bought by an American company, and our helmets had been bought from the Freeman's or Graton catalogue, I don't know which, and I had a black helmet, and I thought it was cool as shit. Now, at the time, my father had a Virago 920 that in the mid-80s was a cool motorbike. Now, the journey from my motorcycling experience with him started at that point through many iterations of motorbikes he had. Things that stick out in my mind is travelling into East Germany not long after the wall had come down on his Harley Davidson, and stopping at a campsite where there was loads of students who had never seen a Harley Davidson before. They'd heard of them but never seen them, and they were trying to pay my dad to have their photograph taken on it. Obviously, let them do it for free, but it was an out-of-world moment for them. Or travelling to Denmark and back as a teenager, and I'd fallen in love with this young Danish girl as a young boy myself, and I wasn't going to see her again, and I had to keep my sunglasses on the whole ride home because I was crying. Or the time my father had a ZZR 1100, and we're in Germany on the Autobahn, and we're doing 150, 160 miles an hour, and I remember it was almost too painful to hold on. Those memories are my memories of motorbikes. But during that period of my life, there was moments I remember iconic motorbikes. And recognising their iconic motorbikes was in 1988-89. My father had taken the day off work, unbeknownst to me, and cut out hundreds of motorbike posters and pictures and stuck them on my bedroom wall. Now, we don't do that anymore because we have the internet, but my wall was plastered in bikes, and bikes I used to lie in bed at night and looking up at, with the ZX7R, the RGV 250, the original Blade, the VFR 750. Beautiful bikes then, and classic bikes now. And particularly if we think of the Kawasaki, where they have just released a whole series of 40th anniversary bikes of the bikes that we remember. So since the mid-80s, motorbikes have been very much entwined to every part of my life. I even remember when my father made any change to one of his bikes, and he took handlebars off, exhaust or carburetor to change it, that became the ornament in my bedroom. Or he once had one of his bikes custom painted, and the artist is where I worked for my work experience in senior school. Now that brings us today. What does my motorbike history look like? Well, it looks a bit like this. My first was a CB100. Interestingly, a bike that broke down once in the middle of nowhere, and I just left it. And then a few weeks later, I went past it, and it had a police aware sign on it. Don't do that. My second bike was a Kijiva W8, still a 125, a bike that burnt through 2 pistons in the space of a year. Then I got into my big bikes, and I've had several Buell XB9s, an XB12, a Buell Ulysses, 2 chops, a soft-tail chop and a hard-tail chop, multiple Harley-Davidson softtails, a Ducati 748S, 2 R6s, a Virgin Marble Race Rep one and a blue one, a ZX7R. I got that because of my love of the previous ZXR 750, showed you earlier. 2 Harley Sportster custom bikes that I made from the 48 platform. My first BMW GS, an R9T, a Ducati Monster, an 821, another R9T, and another GS, my little motorcycle palindrome. Then we have my current Monster and my current R1300. And they're my bikes.